Good morning, friends. Welcome to WordofGord's OBE Journal 2017. And this morning I'd like to start with the, the consciousness we explored yesterday, or yesternight, with exploring that diamond field, as I described it, or as I attempted to describe it, whereby the statuesque diamonds in that field, that seemingly endless display, represented an aspect of beings having completed their incarnational journeys and having, graduated. And contributed everything that they could to the graduation of Gaia. And after having done that, I was thinking during the day of some quotes I had made from Alice Bailey's work in an earlier essay, and I tracked it down. It's in the book Confronting Your Immortality. And the quote is from her 1934 channeled work, A Treatise on White Magic. And they talk about the plan for humanity is discussed in several places, but here there's a brief summation, which I think is very pointed and unmistakable. A quote, "The plan. You might ask here, and rightly so, what is the plan? It is the production of a subjective synthesis in humanity and of a telepathic interplay which will eventually annihilate time. It will make available to every man all past achievements and knowledges, and it will reveal to man the true significance of his mind and brain, and make him the master of all that equipment, and will make him therefore omnipresent, and eventually open the door to omniscience." End quote. And I think that speaks for itself. We will be we are to a degree omnipresent when we telepathically interact with other beings in the continuum of time and space, past lives of our own, shall we say? And you're talking to the higher consciousness of that created being living in 1247 or 963 or AD 211, sorry, did I say AD 211? Sorry, BC 211, or 1760 or 1823. You are in that manner annihilating time. Time does not matter. And sharing in that, we become omnipresent beings. And according to Alice, that leads the door to opens the door to omniscience. So anyway, the beings that were represented in the diamond field would be at that level of consciousness. And the diamonds are, how shall we say, an artistic representation of that aspect that somebody thought would be a really good idea to do and not me. But I can guess or assume that there would be other ways of representing that. But that seemed to be where I found myself in that meditation, or projection rather. And I wanted to revisit and have you experience that. But I'm sure there are many other ways, imagistic, conceptual ways to represent those graduates of the evolutionary plan. And as I contemplated those thoughts and the possibility of finding them in the various books that I have and sharing them with you, it occurred to me during the night that I, Gordon, might be having an interaction with Maitreya last night. And that seems to be the case. So I will focus my consciousness and revisit that experience from what I assume was a few hours ago. I've done, for those of you who may not know, quite a lot of Maitreya channeling in the, 10 years ago. And they're collected in a book mostly called Jesus and the Christ. And Jesus is represented in the book too, but quite a lot of Maitreya. And you can refer to that if you wish. It's out there, ebook and print book. I think some people are, when they hear about it and react on the internet, they're a bit shocked that I would take such a step. And then others are saying, "Oh, I should have guessed you would have done something like this, Gordon." But it was something that seemed appropriate at the time. And there was even a brief interaction with Maitreya in about 2006, included in More Adventures in Eternity. And I wouldn't say that I consciously interact with them much now, but tonight seems to have been an exception to that pattern. I seem to be tuning in at a point where Maitreya is saying, I have been and am many beings and focuses of consciousness throughout time and space. And I draw on all those experiences to manifest the level of consciousness that you're experiencing now. I take what is needed from those various focuses and merge them into one focus, which is the being known as Maitreya on the planet Earth. And I am no more many beings than you are many beings, but I am certainly more practiced in combining all of their lighted intelligence into the one focus that you're experiencing now. You too will acquire this talent as you move along your inner journey towards a more complete understanding of all that you can be, as opposed to the island of consciousness you appear to be now. Beings like me, the other ascended masters, as we are sometimes called, elder brothers, white brotherhood, we are here to, amongst other things, remind you of the potential accomplishment of your journey, especially at those times when that accomplishment seems forever out of reach. When you stumble and submit to your self-generated confusions, you feel as far from the pinnacle of consciousness as is possible. And we understand that. But we encourage you to use those confusions to build an understanding of where those confusions come from, who is emanating those confusions, because that being is the same being who will emanate all your understandings. By refining the confusions into a pattern or patterns of perfectly understandable behaviors. Your love for yourself and for others, however balanced it is currently, some of you, the love of self will be much higher than the love of others, and in others of you it will be the other way around. You will be devoted to others and rather neglectful of yourself. But you're all progressing towards a perfect balance of those two loves. It is love which brings you into incarnation, into the stormy conflicts of interpersonal and international relations. It is a desire to resolve those difficulties and confusions into a harmony, a greater harmony. You may feel that you are discovering greater and greater measures of unconditional love within yourself. And on one level, that is true. But understand your source, your point of origin, and your point of completion is bathed in unconditional love. It is the construction of individual character and expression, which takes away from that unconditional love. It takes much energy away from that unconditional love as you create bit by bit the being who begs to be known as a certain individual in a certain family and society and epoch. Once the creation of those individuals becomes effortless, and it does, the unconditional love you feel before and after the creation of an individual character is the same as the unconditional love you are made of before and after that creation of character. Perhaps now you envision your journey through the post-mortem worlds to a height of achievement in the Godhead or the unmanifest, as you wish to call it or perceive it. And on one level, it is a journey of stripping away and becoming what you really are. But I would have you understand that that core of unconditional love, that radiant light, is in you now and forms the core of your being. It is merely draped over with the veils necessary to manifest in the physical plane and the astral plane. Each one of these veils shades or dims a certain portion of that inner radiance, that you may function on these planes in a useful manner. As a being of refined, radiant light, you could not function on the physical plane. You would not really be there, as the vibration is too low, and if you were to manifest there, you would have to lower your vibration to such a great degree that you would in fact be yet another, perhaps temporarily, physical being with many veils over your inner radiance. So understand that where you are headed and where you have come from is essentially the same consciousness that you carry about with you now. You are the achievement you are aiming towards. Teachers only point the way. Rituals, practices, all they do is point the way, get you ready for the journey, push you farther along the track of becoming. And this is a track that I ventured on myself, what may seem like a long time ago, but is in fact just another timeline in a maze of timelines that make up this enigmatic mystery of time and space that has been adopted by the planet and its inhabitants to facilitate the working out of the issues and problems and challenges that arise when souls descend to a limited form of consciousness and interact with other soul energies, also limited by mortality, oppressive weather, the desperate desire and chase to make shelter and protect oneself and one's offspring. The creation of tribes and states and ethnicities, which then further divide the individual specks of consciousness from the knowing that you are all one consciousness. Such challenges and desperate measures, as sometimes they are all part of the plan. But when you are sunk in these struggles, guides such as your normal, regular spirit guides and the elder brothers such as I can help you become refocused in your direction towards the unfolding of your inner, powerful, radiant, understanding self. Understand that the beings who appear to control and direct the direction of your geopolitical and business structures around the planet are all souls on the same journey as yourself, who have taken detours to their final destinations, detours that seemed appropriate and necessary according to their perceived needs and fears. Their sins of omission and commission must be seen in that light. They can be corrected. They can be reassigned. But removing them from their positions will only create a vacuum that others of a similar nature will hasten to fill. And this is true whether you live in a democracy or a dictatorship, or a plutocracy, or a meritocracy, whatever. It does not matter. Vacuums created by removals, whether forcible or, democratic, will be quickly filled by another soul of a similar nature. This is not to cause you grief or disappointment and depression. This is merely to point out patterns of behavior. Behaviors which create and extend the complexity of life on your plane, that seemingly chaotic complexity that feels like it will never yield to intelligent and rational control. And we, as ascended masters of all nations and religious viewpoints, because we have all passed through those to our achievement, if you like to call it achievement now, these complexities and confusions were anticipated. It is no surprise to us, nor was it ever. But we hold to our commitment to try and adjust wherever possible these complexities into an unfolding plan of action which will benefit all. And although these plans of action are far from perfect, they do incur the notion, perhaps challenged by some of the more philosophical among you, that progress is achievable in very small increments. That the sufferings of past centuries need not be repeated robotically. That the dictates of karma can be modified by the application of mercy, kindness, compassion, intelligent, creative action that is not based on the ego needs of those who make the compassionate plans. The notion of circumstances becoming better or staying the same or getting worse are merely perceptions on the part of individuals with either conscious or unconscious agendas. And I urge you, as you fight off these confusions and doubts and senses of meaningless striving towards goals that can never seem to be reached, I urge you to not perceive the scenes in front of you around the planet as one way or another, but to live through them with a brave heart and the inner understanding that your actions will be noted, not just by others, but by your inner self, as you are headed not towards a resolution of the world's problems, but to a graduation in your own consciousness from the limited understanding of your position in the great plan to an expanded understanding that your position is merely temporary, a series of temporary stages from which you will emerge victorious, triumphant, and quite blissed out, as you like to say. And when you graduate, as another phrase is commonly used, others in the world will still have problems. And that is, one of many attachments that you will give up when you graduate. Knowing that you have, done your best on your way. It is a similar relinquishing of attachment when, as individuals, aging parents and grandparents, you give up your attachment to your concerns of grandchildren and their struggles, or great-grandchildren. You realize that your time for helping out, in even in small ways, is over, and that you have to relinquish that desire to help and move on into the next world. Well, graduation from incarnation, as we have been discussing, is much the same giving up of attachments. And here Maitreya seems to be saying, I thank you all for your time and attention, and remind you that all the ascended masters once were where you are now. Yes, we have graduated, but no, we have not forgotten, and no, we have not given up on you or anyone. Enemies may tear each other to pieces, as you see around the planet, most clearly with your modern communications. But the karmic ties of those in desperate struggle will one day be resolved. And they too will learn the ways of peace, cooperation, and compassionate action. Resist the despair that unfolds from such torments. Radiate love as much as you can in any one moment. And don't forget, radiate that love to yourself as well as others, because you are all essentially one. And with that, again, I thank you and wish you farewell. Well, thank you, Maitreya, or the focus of consciousness that chooses to be seen and heard as Maitreya. And as physical Gordon exploring astral Gordon and the many curious and exciting situations one can explore out of body, I would remind you that you can, if you wish, and are determined and focused, contact the Ascended Masters, or one of them, and interact in a way that you will feel useful to your journey. They are available, and they are multidimensional beings. There's not just one of each one of them. They can bifurcate, they can manifest many images, many focuses for those who wish to interact. Just as we can, as I have hinted at and talked about on our own baby steps of a journey. This notion of one name, one person, one body, one journey is quite an illusion. We are more than one body. We are more than one name. We are more than one manifestation. We are several. And in order to embrace that, you will have to shift your understanding of individuality and see that it manifests in many ways. It's a challenge, but it's not overwhelming. It's not impossible. It can be grappled with and encompassed, embraced, understood. And I, just as a parting word, would like to personally thank Maitreya for sharing his consciousness with me so that I could share it with you, of course, um, because I now feel quite elevated myself. And it is quite an honor to be with such a being. And it's also an honor to be with you. And we will continue tomorrow. Farewell, friends.